The ration card was gone. Oh, Chol-soo pushed his hand deep into his coat pocket. Nothing. He had checked it leaving the house. He had checked it at the bus stop. Now, standing at the front of the distribution line, there was nothing. The line was long. 14 people ahead of him. 9 behind. Their breath hung white in the cold air. It was mid-March, but winter had not loosened its grip. Icicles still hung from the eaves of the distribution building. The ground was frozen solid again. It had thawed slightly the day before and hardened overnight. He checked every pocket: inner coat, outer coat, left trouser, right trouser, a worn notebook, a bus receipt, an old matchbox. No ration card. He had lost it. Chol-soo stepped out of the line. The person behind him moved one step forward. No one looked at him. The square in front of the building was wide and cold. A broken cart sat in the corner, its wheels cemented into frozen dirt. Somewhere distant, a loudspeaker announcement rose and fell on the wind. He could not make out the words. He retraced his steps. 30 minutes of walking to get here. He had to go back and look. But the line might grow. If today's distribution ended before he returned, the next chance was 2 weeks away. His mother could not wait 2 weeks. She had not eaten since last night. She was waiting. He moved quickly back through the gray alley. Cement walls on both sides. Paint cracked and peeling. Snow still sitting in the shaded sections of the path. He walked with his eyes down, scanning the ground. Nothing. He stopped at the bend in the alley. This was the spot. That morning, something had brushed his shoulder. He had thought it was a passerby. He had not checked his pocket again after that moment. He checked the ground again. Nothing. He checked the base of the walls. Nothing. Then a building caught his eye at the end of the alley. Its entrance door stood half open. It was an old structure. Several windows broken. Snow packed on the roof. Water stains running dark down the cement walls. It had the shape of a school building. Long unused. No sign on the front. He had no reason to go in. He had not lost the card in there. He had never walked this way this morning. Yet his feet moved toward it. He pushed the door. Old wood creaked. Inside was dark. A narrow corridor stretched ahead. Dirt and dry leaves had collected on the floor. Cold air pushed in through a broken window. Colder than outside. The smell of a building long closed. Dust and stillness. 2 doors on the left side of the corridor. The first was locked. The second hung slightly open. He pushed it. A classroom. A chalkboard on the far wall. Old chalk marks still faintly visible, smeared where they had been erased. Desks scattered throughout the room. Some upright, some tilted, some overturned entirely. Half the windows broken. Glass on the floor crunched under his feet. A broken chair in the corner. An old book lying open on the floor, thick with dust. On the right wall, a clock. Round, wooden frame. Paint chipped in several places. The glass cover had a crack running vertically through it. Dust had built up along the rim. An old clock. He looked at it. Both hands pointed straight up. 12 o'clock. Noon or midnight. Impossible to know. He stopped in front of it. A stopped classroom. A stopped clock. He did not know why he had come inside. The ration card would not be here. Yet he could not move from that spot. He thought of his father. Oh Bong-jun had been a teacher. A primary school teacher somewhere in this village. When Chol-soo was very young. His father left early each morning. Ate a little, put on his coat, and went out. Some mornings it was still dark when he left. Chol-soo had grown up thinking this was simply what fathers did. When he came home in the late afternoons, there was chalk dust on his hands, on his palms and between his fingers. His mother told him to wash his hands. He went to the faucet without answering and washed them. Then he ate, then he slept. He was not a man of many words. Not frightening, not warm, simply quiet. His father had died 5 years ago. About a week before March arrived. He had not been ill for long. A month in bed, and then he was gone. In the final days he barely spoke. His eyes opened and closed. Chol-soo sat beside him. His mother sat across from him. One afternoon, his father opened his eyes fully and looked at Chol-soo. Then he extended his hand and took hold of Chol-su's hand. The palm was wide, the knuckles thick. It was cold, but the grip was firm. The hand that had held chalk. The hand that had cleaned chalkboards. That hand held his without a word, then slowly let go. That was the last time. His father was gone the following morning before dawn. Standing before the clock, Chol-soo thought of that hand. He looked down at the base of the clock. There was a piece of paper on the floor directly beneath it. Small, folded. He bent and picked it up. He opened it. His ration card. His own name. This month's date. The official seal, clear and dark. How was it here? He had entered this building for the first time today. He had not come this way this morning. Yet his ration card was on the floor of this classroom, placed directly beneath a stopped clock. Footsteps came from the corridor. Light and slow. He looked toward the door. A man stood there. Not tall. Hair half white. A worn coat. Nothing in his hands. The man said, "You found it." Chol-soo asked, "Who are you?" The man came slowly into the classroom. He stood at the window and looked out at the gray alley. The continuing cement walls. The frozen ground below. The man said, "I learned to read in this classroom." Chol-soo said, "In this school?" The man nodded. He said, "There was a teacher who used this room. He was the first person who taught me letters in this village." Chol-soo did not speak. The man went on. He was a quiet man. He did not say much, but he cleaned the chalkboard every single day without exception. After class, after the children had all gone, he stayed alone and cleaned it. One afternoon, a few of us looked back from the corridor and saw him standing at the board by himself, erasing slowly. He did not know we were there. Dust was settling. He kept cleaning. Chol-su's throat tightened. Chalk dust. Wide palms. The back of his father at the faucet. The man said, "I heard that he had passed away 5 years ago. I was not in this village then. When I returned, it had already been a long time." Chol-soo said quietly, "That was my father." The man looked at him. A long look. He said nothing for a moment. Then he said, "This morning I saw you pass by the entrance to this alley. I saw a piece of paper slip from your pocket. I picked it up. I brought it here." Chol-soo asked, "Why not give it to me directly?" The man was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I wanted to show you this classroom. The teacher's son. The place where he stood every day." Chol-soo looked around. The stained board. The fallen desks. The broken glass. And the stopped clock. The man said, "That clock." The teacher stopped it himself. One day in the middle of class, without a word, he pulled a chair over, climbed up, and held the hands in place. The children asked why. He did not answer. He stepped down, put the chair back, and continued the lesson. The clock has not moved since. Not when the school closed. Not in all the years after. Still 12 o'clock. Chol-soo looked at the clock. 12. Stopped at 12. He would never know why his father had done it. There was no one left to ask. Would you have spent your life searching for that reason? Or let it remain unanswered? The man said he was a good person. That much I know for certain. Chol-soo said, "Thank you." They stood in the classroom together for a moment. No words. Cold air through the broken windows. The loudspeaker in the distance, rising and falling. Chol-soo put the ration card deep into his inner pocket and pressed it flat. He moved toward the door, then stopped without turning. He asked what was the teacher's name. "My father's name." The man said, "Oh Bong-jun." "Teacher Oh." Chol-soo bowed his head once and walked out into the corridor. He placed one hand on the wall as he passed. Cold, rough cement. His father had walked this corridor every day. Had breathed this air. Had felt this cold. Had walked out with chalk dust on his hands. Without words. Without explanation. Just walked. He stepped outside. The cold air of the alley met his face. He walked quickly back to the distribution building. 5 people remained in line. He stood at the end. His feet were cold. His fingers numb. But he felt the ration card through the fabric of his pocket. When his turn came, he handed it over. The clerk checked it, stamped it, handed back his grain. Heavy. He took it with both hands. On the way home, he passed the building again. The door was closed. The man was gone. His mother came out of her room when he entered. She looked at the grain and said nothing. She nodded once. That was all. But everything from today was inside that nod. He washed the rice in cold water until his hands reddened. While the pot cooked, he thought of the classroom. The chalkboard his father had cleaned. The clock his father had stopped. A man who had remembered him after all this time. His father had left behind only a stopped clock. But that clock had brought his son to stand in the same room where he had once stood every day. Without words, without explanation, but arriving all the same. If this story stayed with you, the next one begins here too.